Hey guys, in today's video we are going to see how we can use git pre-commit hooks and let's say Google Java format program and a bunch of other hooks for formatting like our JSON files, our XML files, our YAML files and also all our Java files, right? But before we go into details about like how we can achieve this, let's quickly do a recap of what we learned in the previous video. So in the previous session, if you remember, I showed how you can format your code into remote GitHub using a GitHub action. That GitHub action would basically take any sort of ill-formatted code and it would do two things. One, it would format the code and then it would push the formatted code to the main branch. Now, on the first outset, like it seemed like a very lucrative option that, like irrespective of 10 people are working or 100 people are working, the code will always be formatted in the main branch. But then we also saw that for that particular action to work, your main branch cannot be protected, right? Like the only way you can push code from a plugin directly to a main branch is if the main branch accepts direct pushes to the main branch. Now that's a strategy which is not a good strategy. Let's say if you're working in a project with multiple people, you always want your main branch to be protected, and for that reason I said even though it seems like a very lucrative option, we are not going to go with this particular option. So if you could not format our code into a remote machine, that left us with another option, and that was about formatting our code on users' local machines. So let's say if you have 3 users, the approach that we're going to learn is how these 3 users can install some pre-commit hooks on their machine and format code even before committing their code, so that no unformatted code ever leaves their machine when they're pushing to GitHub, right? So without any further delays, let's go let's go and do some Google search. By the way, this was the project bad code, and this was the plugin that we used in the previous video. So for now, we want to explore more about pre-commit. So if you just search about pre-commit, this is the website for pre-commit, precommit.com. This is nothing but basically a package manager solution. Like you have Chocolatey for Windows, you have a Homebrew for Mac machine. Pre-commit is basically is built to solve our hook issues. It is a multi-language package manager for pre-commit hooks, right? And the way you can start working with it is it's a 2-step approach. First of all, you install pre-commit, and then you install all the pre-commit hooks that you define in your project. So let's say if you're working on a Mac machine, you can install pre-commit hook by just brew install pre-commit. But let's say if you're working on a Windows machine, then you would need to install Python and you need to install pip, which is a package installation program for Python. And in my case, I already have both of them installed. So, I could just, let's say, run this command, and this would install pre-commit on my machine. So let's just do that. So I already have it installed, but, for the sake of this video, I'm again going to run this command. Pip install pre-commit, and as we can see, I already have pip version 21.2.3 available. There's a newer version available, but for this video, I don't need it, right? So let's go to the next step. Once you have installed pre-commit, then it asks you to check the version of pre-commit just to be sure if it is installed or not installed. So as we can see, the pre-commit version, it says, is 3.1.0, right? So let's go back. Windows 2. Then it says once you have installed pre-commit, then the next step that you have to do is you have to create a file named .precommitconfig.yaml file. So let's just go ahead and create that file in our root repository. New file, precommitconfig.yaml file. I'm not going to add it to Git yet because there's nothing in this file. So let's go back. And then it says you can generate a very basic configuration using pre-commit sample config. By the way, this is also a sample configuration, so we're going to use this particular configuration. The full set of options for configuration are listed below. This example uses the formatter for Python code, so basically this is relevant for Python code. We're going to skip it because our project is a Java project. But if your project is a Python project, you can use this particular step to format your Python code. And then it says other supported hooks are available. So if we open this other supported hooks, here you can see a list of all the pre-commit hooks that are available to do any sort of task that you want to probably do. So if we come back, let's first just copy this particular example. So let's copy this. Let's do it Windows 1, paste it here. And like I said, this is only for formatting Python code. We're not interested in this. So I'm going to delete it from here. And if you just look at the format here, you have a repos tag. And in this particular YAML file, you have a repo tag, which is basically pointing to this GitHub repository. If you want, you can just do a Windows 2, and if you go to this repository, you can basically see all the hooks that are available in this particular repository. Then basically it's a revision number, which could be a tag, which could be a commit, or it could be a tag. So I believe they would have provided some sort of tags here. So 52 tags. So the latest tag is version 4.4.0. If you want to use the latest tag, we can use it. So if I come back, I can put it as v4.4.0, right? And then you have, there are a couple of hooks already provided in the example. One is to check if it is a valid YAML or not. Other is to basically fix the end of file fixes. So let's say if you don't have, even in this file, let's say if I don't add an end of line, it will fix this particular file as well. And the other one is for trailing white spaces. So let's say if I add some white spaces here, it will also fix those kind of issues, right? So that's a good example. Let's go back. So in our case, we are interested in having a pre-commit hook for Java. So let's just go here in supported hooks, and let's just search for a hook for Java format code, right? And let's search for Java. And when I search with Java, you can see there are 3 different repositories which provide hooks to format Java code. But the common thing is, if you look into all of these repositories, all of them use Google Java Formatter to format Java files, right? All of them are the same solutions. This one has got the least stars, so I'm not interested in this. It's 4 stars. The other 2 has got, so this one has got 56 stars, I believe, 53 stars. The thing is, if you want to use this particular plugin, you can, but then you have to change this value from SHA to REVI, because that's the latest syntax. And you also have to change this particular commit from not this commit, but you have to go to a particular commit. And the thing is, it was last updated 2 or 3 years ago. So rather than using this, I'm going to prefer and use another hook. But if you want to use it, you can copy this particular commit, and then you can also make use of this. Mentioning also that another reason why I don't want to use this particular solution is, if I open it again, is because it's going to download Google format Java jar file, and the format that this particular program downloads is Java 1.7, which is pretty old, right? And we don't want to use version 1.7. I think the latest supported one is Java 11. So that's the one that we would like to use. And if we come here, the first one actually uses Java 11. So if we come down, we can see here that it provides a list of hooks for Golang, Java, Kotlin, Rust, etc., etc. For us, we are interested in this particular plugin for pretty format Java, and we can see that this might be relevant for pretty format Java and pretty format Kotlin hooks. The hooks depend on having a Java version 11 or higher installed on your machine. So this is exactly what you want, right? So let's just go ahead and copy this code, and let's go back and let's paste it here. I think the formatting is okay. We have to change this, replace this with the latest SHA or a version. So let's come back and let's click on the latest commits. The latest commits was 3 months ago, which is good. And if you just see here, bump Google Java format version from 1.15 to 1.16 2 weeks ago. So this seems like a good plugin, which is keeping up with all the latest bug fixes, all the latest features that this particular program has to provide. So if I open this commit, it says it's going from 15 to 16. Let's just go back and copy this particular commit version. So I'm going to copy this commit and we'll come back. And let's replace this value with this particular commit, right? I don't want pretty format Kotlin, so I'm going to remove it. We already have something for YAML, so I'm also going to remove it, right? So we can remove these two. We can remove the end of the line if it allows me to, because that would be a good check for end of file fixer, right? So now we have a hook both for Java file, we also have a hook for YAML file, and we have some other hooks for fixing end of file find lines, for fixing some trailing white spaces like here. So seems like we have some good starting point hooks to start with, right? So let's just go back and see what pre-commit hook says next. It says once you have added this file as well, then third step is to basically install the git hook scripts, right? And the way you can do it is just by running this command pre-commit install. So we'll go back, and in the terminal I'm going to just run this command pre-commit install. And by the way guys, this might be a little bit longer video, but it's also very useful. Like as you can see, this thing is not just useful for Java projects, it can be used for Python, Go, any kind of projects. So this is a skill, like once you learn, it's going to be useful for forever in your future projects, right? So it says pre-commit install at git hooks pre-commit. So if we open the repository, so I'm already, for example, here in project 0, and inside git, inside hooks, now it created a new file called pre-commit, and as you can see, the timestamp is 6:42, like right now, and it is today. And if I now edit this file, edit with Notepad, for example, you can see that if I zoom in a little bit, it says install Python. It takes an argument, which is basically the name of this file that we are providing in our repository, and then it tries to basically run a bunch of commands to install Python and format all the code based on the pre-commit hooks that are defined in this particular file, right? So let me move it again. Okay, so let's minimize this. What else? So now let's just give it a try, because the pre-commit hook is now installed. So what happens if I, let's say, create a branch, git branch, add unformatted code. So I already have a branch. So let's just go back here and try to make this code a little bit unformatted, right? And let's see if our hooks will make it better or not, right? So now we have some unformatted code. Let's even put it on this one line. So everything is pretty much messed up, right? So let's just go back and do Windows 4. Let's come here. So in test sandbox class, this is all now very poorly formatted here, right? And the moment you try to add this class now, you will see what happens is, if I say add ill-formatted file commit, I'm expecting it to throw some error messages saying that, hey, this file is ill-formatted, and it should also give a suggestion on how it would work correctly. If not, we might have some sort of formatting issues in our file, which is what we have to go and check. So we have a git warning, and as you can see, if there was a problem with the plugin, you would not see a suggestion here. But because this is well formatted, that's why you are getting a message. Let me go back. That is the reason why it is now giving a updated file to you. It says, hey, the formatting was bad, and this is how your formatting should be. You see, I put all this in one line, and now it is all well formatted without me having to do anything. It is also taking care of all the spaces, like here, that and if there's any spacing issues, it would fix it all for you. If there are any unused imports, it will fix for you. Like any sort of formatting issues will be automatically taken care for you, right? And if you look into this logs, let's see what the log says. So if we look into the logs, so run command Java version 11, which is good. And what you can see here is it says the check YAML one was skipped because it did not found any YAML files to be changed yet, because you're not yet committed this one. Fix end of files was passed. Trim trailing white space was passed. Why? Because in that particular class, in the sandbox class, we did not have these issues. The issues are in this pre-commit config YAML file, and when we are going to commit this, we will see those issues. It did fail on the Google Java formatter one because it found that one file was not properly formatted, and then it tried to basically format that particular file, which was test sandbox Java class, right? So this is exactly what you want. So now we have the solution, and we are going to now add this particular well formatted file to our let's see, add ill formatted file. Okay, I think because there is no changes from the previous one, yeah, it's not finding anything to add. So if I go back and add a comment, so Windows 1, let's just add a comment here so that it accepts our at the rate display name, right? So let's give it a display name, and we're going to say flaky test, for example. So that it at least accepts this one for and gives us an option to commit this. So commit the file. So now it's committed. Still getting committed. Okay, so the file is now committed. The other file that you want to commit is our pre-commit config file, and let me remove all the previous logs. And by the way, this one contains a bunch of problems, right? You remember we added some white spaces here. The end of line is missing. So if I try to commit this file, we should get some errors. Okay, so I'm trying to commit this. Oops, I should have given a message. Okay, open git log. And if you open git log, you see now it's giving a suggestion. And let's see what it said. So it said the check YAML passed, so the YAML file was proper. The fix end of line failed because if you remember, in this particular file I did not give an end of line file, right? So this one failed, and also the trim trailing white space failed because if you remember, I gave a lot of white spaces here. And what it is doing is it is giving us a suggestion by removing those white spaces. As you can see here, there were extra white spaces, now they're gone, and it has also added a new line at the end of this file. So now we can accept this, and we can say adding a pre-commit config file. Okay. Oh, so I think with this you have seen how you can format. Let's go back. With this you have seen how you can format Java files. With this you have seen how you can format YAML files. You can do some kind of file fixing, trailing white spaces, but it's not limited to this. So let's just go back and quickly explore a little bit more on what pre-commit has to offer. So if let's say we go and open supported hooks. The first one is from the pre-commits itself, and you can see there are a lot of checks that we can use in our current project itself. Like we can have a check for JSON itself. So let's say if we use check JSON, Control F, check JSON, JSON schema, for example. So let's say if I go back, Control Z, Control D. So I also want something for JSON. Let's go back. What next? Pre-format JSON. Sure, why not? Let's use this. Sets standard for formatting JSON files. So we can also Control D. And all of these are from the same provider. That's the reason, I don't have to give a new repository, and I'm just adding it over here. And let's see, merge conflict. You can also check XML files, which could be handy for checking your POM files, right? So Control D. So we can use this for our POM files. We can use YAML for our GitHub action files, workflow files. We can use JSON for our test data. So all this is like very useful plugins, right? What else? We already have YAML. What else? Double quote and the file fixers, mixed line endings, replaces or checks mixed line endings. You can also add that if you're working in a project, where people are working on Windows machine and on Linux machines. So sure, why not? Mixed line endings, name test, no commit to branch. I think for now this is good enough, right? So if I come back and if I just add one more, I think then we are good enough with our plugins. What else? So another thing that I think that is important to cover in this video is that in this particular project, so let's say if I go back, once you implement pre-commits in your project, it can happen that you start implementing in the middle of a project, and you already have like tons of files in the project, and what you not want to do is, like, every single time somebody is creating a PR, then the files are getting touched, and then the pre-commit hook is running. So basically this Google Java format program, and maybe I should also show you where this program is installed. So let's say if I open everything. So this is an application called everything, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to say git. Yeah, so for example, Google Java format program. This is the one that was installed, date modified. So this was the one which was installed today, right? And this is in my user directory in app data roaming recent, but I think it's also available here in my user repository .cache pre-commit, right? So if I open this location, open path, so basically this jar will only run, this jar will only run when there are some changes on your Java files. But when you want to implement pre-commit hooks, what you want is, at least for one time, you fix all the formatting issues in the project, right? So that next time when people are going to like review a PR, they are not constantly seeing this different, formatting issues, right? So what you really want to do is at least run this one time to format all your files. So let's just go ahead and do that. So the way you can do it is, first you can, so let's say if you go and if you look for, so let's first change directory, or maybe I can just do it from Windows 1. So let's say if you do git ls files, it is listing down all the files that I have in this particular repository, but it's also, for example, listing down my secret files and properties files, conf files, but I'm only interested in looking at the files which are basically Java files, right? So what you can do is you can say git ls files, and you can say star.java. And what this is going to do is it is only going to show you Java files, right? And for one time at least, you want to format all these Java files. And the way you can do it is by running Java jar and the location of the jar. So for example, let's try to find it. Hooks, no, not hooks. I think it was in, yeah, here. So if I, for example, copy paste this path, let me go back, Windows 1. So if I give this path, and if I say uh, open again, let's copy the name of jar file as well. So let's Control C, Windows 1. Let's put this inside quotes, because as you can see, my username has spaces in between, which is a bad idea. Yeah, but now I can't change it, so let's live with it. And what you want to do is you want to replace everything that we have from here, and let's do a dollar command. So basically what I'm saying is format all the files which are Java files, right? So let's just run this. So what you're seeing is it is saying skipping non-Java files, right? And this is something which I found out, that if you're using a term, this is not going to work for you. So let's say if I copy this, let's also see if it works in PowerShell or not. So if I go to change directory D0, and if I try to run the same command, I think we will get the same error. Oh, actually it ran and it said, yeah, replace all the files. So I think it actually worked. So what I wanted to show was from terminal it did not work, but if you're using PowerShell, or if it does not work with PowerShell, another thing that you can do is you can use this git bash program, right? But in our case, I think it already worked with this. So let me open Visual Studio Code, and now you can see all the Java files that we had earlier are actually now formatted, right? So all the Java files that we have, they are now basically formatted, and this is exactly that you want. For a project in which you are implementing this, you want to run it one time, and once you do it one time, then everything will be consistent for your project. So let me just add all these files. Like if you quickly want to see like what all changes it has done, if it is an interface, it is only going to add bracket like this. For example, it is going to yeah, put static imports first, then other imports. Everything is like 2 spaces lined, not 4 spaces lined. And the thing is, like, it's going to be consistent throughout for all the users, right? So, and that's what we're looking at. So let's just go ahead and add this file, and we will say formatted all Java files, right? Commit. Open git log. Okay, fixing pre-commit config.yaml file, error, your pre-commit configuration is unstaged, so pre-commit has to fix this. Okay, so let's add this as well. Cool, and that's it, I believe. So basically what we saw was that if I, let's say, open a picture. In the previous video we saw that if you use like if you try to do formatting on remote GitHub, it looks pretty cool, but then you have to unprotect your main branch. Not a nice solution. That's why we could not use it. Now we have a very good solution where on your local machine, each user can basically install this pre-commit hooks only one time. And once you have installed this pre-commit hooks, then every single time you try to commit a file, and if that file is not formatted, it will throw you error. It will also give you suggestion on how it should be. And that means from next time onwards, if once you have installed this pre-commit hooks, when you'll push your code to GitHub, it will always be formatted. And the person who is reviewing your PR will always find bugs which are either functional or logical, but never formatting issues, right? Which is pretty cool. I think there's just one last thing which I want to mention is, even with this approach, so like this one has its own pros and cons, this one also has its own pros and cons. And what is that? So let's say if you have 2 users which are currently have this pre-commit hooks installed on their machine, and tomorrow a new user comes in, and the new user does not read the readme file, and they directly try to basically have some code on the machine which is not formatted, and then they try to push it on the main branch. Currently, there's nothing that will stop them from doing it, right? And I think maybe in the next video, I can show you how we can try to get the best of both, how we can utilize the strength of this plugin, and how we can utilize the strength of this plugin to basically create a solution which will work for all users, like even for existing users and for new users, and which would scale very well even when new users will keep on adding to your project. So I hope you found this video useful, and I hope you learned something useful in this video. I'm pretty confident that once you learn this skill, you can take it to any project in your future, irrespective of what programming language you're working on. And in the next video, let's see how we can utilize the strength of both these solutions to create a solution which can scale with time and which can scale with more users. So I'll look forward to see you guys in the next video. Thank you. See you. Bye-bye.